Yo, BD here, Tiamet Limitless here, and welcome back to another F1 2020 video. Today, we are exploring Michael Schumacher's new classic cars that have been thrown into this year's title. That being the Jordan, the two Benettons, and the 2000 Ferrari. So, let's get right into it. We're starting off with the Jordan, and I gotta tell you guys, I've driven a lot of cars over the course of the F1 game franchise, and by a mile, this car is the most difficult car I think I've ever driven. Just traction off the line, and just traction in general, is a real struggle in these cars. And this is on race day, where the track condition is optimal, it's dry. I don't want to imagine how horrific it is going to be when some poor soul has to drive this car in changeable conditions, intermediates or wets. It is just going to be an absolute nightmare. You can just see how much I'm struggling now. It's the turbo. It really makes for a hellish experience. I think the 88 McLaren was a really bad car to drive in the wet, but this is just hard to manage in the dry. So I might make a video at some point in the future where I do drive this car in the wet, and I might do a live com of it, and we can just see if we can literally survive the car on its own, going around a lap of some place. But anyway, here we are in the Jordan, racing around Zandvoort. We haven't done a race around Zandvoort as of yet, so I thought I would take this opportunity to do so. But hopefully you guys are enjoying all my outtakes here. This is literally my first 20 minutes or so racing on this car, and I don't want to complain and say that it's too difficult to drive. I actually like the fact that it's a really difficult car to master, and it's one that I look forward to getting on top of in the future. This is just my initial laps in this car. So, yeah, I just thought I'd leave it all in for you guys to enjoy, and also get a taste of the old damage model as well. We haven't seen that so far, and yeah, they had to model in some damage for these unique looking front wings. This 91 Jordan doesn't have a lot of grip, doesn't have a lot of downforce, doesn't have a lot of everything compared to these more new, modern Formula 1 cars that we're racing in this classic car class. But that doesn't stop us from making the odd dive bomb or two as we get up the inside of one of the Benettons there, a car which will be racing up next around Australia. But this was a savage lunge here. Basically just rude slamming of the door up the inside into the hairpin, and literally just 2 corners later we are now under attack from said Benetton, and the lack of straight line speed really coming into fruition here as we have to defend to the inside at turn 1 here at Zandvoort. The racing is I'm quite looking forward to getting stuck into this in a future video in the modern cars, just to see what it's really like. But initially in this car it was a handful. But we now move on to the 94 Benetton, driven by Michael Schumacher, which delivered him his first World Championship. And we're racing around here in Australia. This car having a bit of controversy at the Australian Grand Prix in 1994. But not at this venue. This was at Adelaide, where Schumacher and Hill obviously collided. But we won't talk about that, will we? Into turn 1. In this race in particular, I decided to make it a spec race. So now in F1 2020, our prayers have been answered. We can now race, or force everyone to race the same car in a race. And I hope that this carries over into online. You would say so, given that we can do it in single player. So that's something I really look forward to. For years now, I've been sick of racing just the fastest classic car in its respective C1, C2, C3 class. Now we can race whatever the hell we want and make some really good videos from that. So supremely looking forward to that. But anyway, Australian Grand Prix, 94 Benetton. This car is still difficult to drive. Had to manage that high-end torque as the turbo kicked in. But definitely a lot more manageable than the Jordan. A lot more a little bit more downforce, just a little bit more capable. It was quite nice to drive, but still struggling against this level of AI. You could see those guys were battling quite a bit in the turn 1, held each other up, and now we're under pressure from the 2 Benettons behind. Do we defend the inside and hold on to the position? We just about do. But yeah, guys, I was struggling in these cars to be competitive. The AI difficulty level was not amazing. I'm willing to admit. I think it was around 102, 103. I should normally be closer to 110, but this is a new game. This is a car that I'm unfamiliar with, as you can see. Another mistake from us there. A bit of oversteer at the third to last corner. While this crash was happening, there was another AI driver which had their own set of issues in the third sector, and that's something that you'll see in a lot of F1 2020 gameplay videos, is that the AI now make mistakes, which is quite awesome to see a human element introduced into the coding, and I look forward to exploring that in career mode later on this year. Really excited about that, the whole My Team thing, getting that all underway. It's going to be possibly the greatest career mode series I've ever done. And the game is really going to lend itself well to some good racing. What's not lending itself well to some good racing is myself. I gave the Benetton on the outside the big squeeze into turns 11 and 12. Just not knowing the full width of the car. And that was a schoolboy error. Thankfully, I have flashbacks on. So, yeah, you're seeing all of the mistakes in this video. But I just thought it would be fun to leave them in, so you guys can get a feel of the contact model, the damage, just to see how everything is kind of reacting. We are having a bit of a moment here with an AI as we go around the outside of the final corner. But then as I had the run up to the line, I had a miss shift, and I left it too late, and we lost the position up to the line. So that was our run in the 94 Benetton. Again, struggle central for us. But we are now going to move on to the next car as we get driver of the day. We're going to move on to the subsequent car, the 95 Benetton. This car, again, a little bit better than its predecessor. I feel like in this car, the power delivery is a little bit nicer. And as such, that made a huge difference to my confidence and just performance in some of these races. Yeah, two problems which I was really plagued with in the first two cars is I couldn't mash down the power as much as I would have liked, and the AI were gaining a lot of time on me in that respect. But 5 red lights, and away we go for the Belgian Grand Prix. We've now stepped it up to a 25% race, and we're going to have some fun here. 95, Schumacher had a bit of a coming together with Damon Hill at this very race, way back when. I did a little bit of research for this video, and I just noticed that Schumacher and Damon Hill had a lot of crashes over the years. So that was quite fun to just go down memory lane and just kind of explore these things. So, you know, kudos to the Formula 1 game for investing in getting these cars in the game, getting the licenses, and it allows people like me, or the newer F1 fans, to have a deeper connection with Formula 1 history. There's still so much of F1 which I don't know about or haven't watched and experienced, and it's something I think at some point in my life I will do. I'll go back and watch all the old seasons and really clue myself up on life before F1 2010, but that day is not today. But anyway, we've gone back to having everyone in this class of cars. So we've got some of the older McLarens, we've got some Williams in here, newer McLaren, the 98 McLaren, which is an absolute beast, which keeps dominating some of these races. We follow a McLaren Upper Rouge and Radeon, give them a bit of a touch, and we've actually given them some of our momentum, and you can see they're pulling away on the Camel Straight there. But this car reigns supreme in the corners compared to the 80s McLaren, and we're going to fly up the inside here into the understeery right-hander. Thank you very much. We might even get the second one. No, not quite. But it is P13 for the moment. You can see we've got some drops of rain falling on the screen. So just like in the 95 race, we're having a bit of weather interrupt here. And unlike Schumacher, I think we will box for a set of wet tyres and try and make this work for us here. You should look it up, the 95 Belgian Grand Prix, the battle between himself and himself being Michael Schumacher and Damon Hill. It was a tasty little battle. Schumacher stayed out on dries and tried to fend off Damon Hill for the lead, and yeah, it all became a cropper a little bit, to spoil it for you guys. But anyway, lap 3, trying to put some pressure on Clark here. I'd imagine that we're going to go to wets in a few laps time here. The rain is falling, but not overly heavy. But Spa is such a long lap time that it's it can easily catch you out. If you stay out that one lap too long, you could probably lose 20-30 seconds. It's absolutely ridiculous as we pull off a nice move at Lecom around the outside of the McLaren driver. Next up is Murray. Let's see if we can get him. The AI are very bullish this year. They like to move over on you, try to defend, break the slipstream, and overall, they're a massive improvement on last year's game. And this is still the work in progress build, so I'm looking forward to if there's any further tweaks to the AI to see if they're improved. But to be completely honest, there is one downside to the AI, which has been evident even in last year's game, is the AI still like to turn in on you, especially like in lap 1 scenarios. You'll be up the inside of someone and you'll just get completely cut off. But by the same token, if I'm the AI in their position, more often than not, I probably will turn in on someone. That's my decision making. That's not everyone's, but I do tend to turn in on a lot of people. So I guess I can't really judge in that aspect. But you can see now the rain is getting pretty heavy now, and with that hindsight of the spin, I've taken a flashback and I'm going into the pit lane for a set of wet tires. So here we go. It looks like it's the right call. A few others have been early adopters to the more wet weather compound, and we're gonna head back out there for 6 laps to the end. Like I said, Spa is a very long lap time, and when you're caught out on the wrong tire, as we lose it at the top of a Radeon, Jesus, that was very scary. When you're caught out on the wrong tire at this circuit, you can absolutely bleed time, and you can see evident just how much faster we are versus the dry compound runners. They're all in the pit lane on the very next lap, but we've absolutely smashed past all of them. We're now going to be challenging the likes of the top 5. Watch this move here as we go around the outside of not one, but 2 drivers, one of which being on the dries, blocking a driver who was on wets. So that was very fortunate for us. VSC has been deployed, which I am absolutely certain was not a staple of 1995 Formula 1 racing. VSC is pretty recent, isn't it? I think it only was introduced in like the last 5 years, like what, 2014, 2015-ish? You guys will correct me in the comments, I'm sure. But yeah, it was pretty funny to see that nonetheless. We now rejoin in the action. We're now putting pressure on Correa here in the top 4. And no, that is not the F2 driver Correa. This is just a regular AI generated name or something like that. Again, losing the back end as we try and lay down the power. It seems like, yeah, we've just got too much power for how much grip we've got in the tires, and it's proving to be very difficult as we lose time hand over fist in the acceleration zones. Do we go for a dive here into the right-hander? No, not quite, but we will make it work around the outside, will we, on the Williams? A little bit older than our car, so we're utilizing the newer technology to our advantage. Completely unfair, but it's fine. We're through now for P4, and that was the race. Nice little wheel spin as we approach the line. I just thought I'd let you listen to the engine sounds for just a brief second. But there we go. That is the 3rd car off our list. We now move on to the F2000 Ferrari, which Michael Schumacher won his first championship for Ferrari with, that being his 3rd overall. And we're racing here at Suzuka, where he won said title. Away we go from last place on the grid. Again, we're doing a 25% race, and oh, this car sounds absolutely delightful, doesn't it? Enjoy this car. You can definitely tell that this F2000 doesn't have as much grip and downforce as its descendants, if that's the right word. The F2002 and the 2004. Well, this is a nice little sequence here, defending at 130R and then turning it into attack at the very next corner at the final chicane. That was lovely. That was absolutely phenomenal. We are going to move on. We've got that was a Brawn GP car that was having a engine failure on the start-finish straight. We avoid them and we move up into P14. We got Clark up next in the Renault. That was driven by Fernando Alonso in the mid-2000s. Let's see if we can put a move on this guy. It seems like the 2006-2005 Renault is probably one of the more slower cars of the 2000s era, and we make full use of that as we go up the inside into 130R. That is a brave move, but we pull it off. Here's a couple of replays just to show that I don't know if it's bravery or stupidity to put my nose in there at the apex of 130R, but we make it work for us. And guys, that's the video. Jeez, that ended quickly. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll bring you more F1 2020 content very soon.